screen right there. The online training we're going to spend tonight, tomorrow night. Obviously we're all here in mid-July. Looking forward to getting back with our teams. We've had a chance to work with our team down here in South Florida since basically June 15th on a limited basis. We brought 10 guys in at a time, really 6 different times in the month of June, and now we're up groups of 24, which I think our biggest group has 20. So we're getting there. Hopefully you guys have had a chance to get back with your teams. I'm sure you're anxious, and hopefully you're not in one of those states that has decided to shut it down, but hopefully we're not moving towards that. But, it's obviously been a weird off season here, but looking forward to tonight. Again, this is our second time doing this. We did it as a 3-day camp the last time, and it worked out well. We had over, I think, 90 quarterbacks and coaches. I think it was 98. Tonight looks like it's a smaller group for sure. No big deal. It's going to be excellent. Please ask questions. Love quarterback play. Had a chance to work with a lot of different coaches to put together some of the thoughts we're going to talk about tonight. And hopefully I can share some ideas with you guys, and please give me feedback back, as you see fit with this. So hopefully you've had a chance to check out the site. The site's gone through some changes over the course of the last several years, but really, looking forward to upgrading and elevating that site for some use for you guys here looking into 2021, and have had a chance to look at a couple different things that we're going to do. And I've got a guy named George. Some of you guys probably deal with George Harvey with that site. And then Exo Clinics is another site that I'm partnered with. Hopefully you guys had a chance to use that site. There's excellent resources. We've partnered in QBD and QBI, Quarterback Intelligence, will be partnered with Exo Clinics moving forward. And you'll get resources from both those sites. So hopefully you've had a chance to utilize that. So we'll keep moving here. There's my contact information. If you need to get a hold of me, you can email me at that coachsocial17@gmail.com. You can take down my cell phone number. I think I probably emailed it to you guys, 561-613-9193. You guys can text me. It's probably the best way to get a hold of me. If we need to get on the phone, that'll be great too. But text is definitely probably the best way. Email would be second. But I'm down here in South Florida. I've had a chance to work at a lot of different levels. I've worked with a lot of different coaches. I've worked high school football, Division I football. I had a chance to work in the NFL with the Buffalo Bills and worked with David Lee and Greg Roman and Anthony Lynn and a bunch of really good coaches prior to getting this job here at Kaiser. And then a few years back, I worked with Bill Lazor, who's a good quarterback coach. I think he's with the Chicago Bears right now. But I've had a chance to work with some guys with quarterback play, and I've had a chance to really work with the quarterbacks in my programs really the last 15 years, and just developed a plan and a program on how to coach those guys. And just, it's my way of doing it. Hopefully there's some ideas I can give you that you want to take. And then if there's other things you want to share as well, please do so. For sure. But, tonight we'll talk a little bit about leadership. There's defensive terms. There's identifying coverage. There's a passing game install we'll talk about. We won't get too much into drills and training tonight. There'll be some film review, and we'll watch some film here in a little bit, Q&A. Obviously, this was a 3-day format jammed into 2 days. So what we're going to try to do, I'm going to try to get through all the way to cover 2. And then that'll really get us past, I think, the halfway point, and then tomorrow night we'll wrap it up. But just moving forward, we're talking about leadership. We're going to talk about some defensive terms, coverage overview, passing game install, reads and recognition, quarterback training, film review. And then obviously if there's any questions, please send them my way throughout. Hopefully I can grab those through the chat or on the Q&A bar there. But, that's kind of an overview of what we're doing tonight. And looks like we've got, I think, coaches on here. I'm not sure if there's any quarterbacks. But again, I'm just going to share some ideas. A couple things about quarterbackdrills.com. It's been around since I think 2012 or 13 is when we started it, and it's evolved, and it kind of slowed down for a little bit, and then it's going to really evolve here soon. We're putting together what's called QBI, which is Quarterback Intelligence, and it's going to be a certification for coaches and quarterbacks. We're going to price it really reasonable, so you can get your coaches and quarterbacks certified Really, what will the certification mean? It's just another opportunity to get better, and it's a class and it's a clinic. It's not going to be like some of these other certifications that are going to charge you, upwards, $200-$300. It's nothing like that at all. It's just it's a nice little curriculum we're putting together, and there'll be tests and quizzes, and it's just a chance as a football coach and for quarterbacks to improve. So looking forward to putting that together and finishing that up for 2021. But we'll keep moving here. Some expectations. Obviously, quarterbacks, in any of the programs that I've had success with and been around, obviously there's not a place where our quarterback hasn't been the guy and had to be a guy. And there's not another position in any sport that comes with more pressure, demand, or expectations. I hammer that home with our quarterbacks all the time. And, sometimes the pressure that I put on them or the pressure they put on themselves is greater than what other people are going to put on them. But it's going to be there. And obviously we got a demand on those guys, and the expectations are really high with those guys. I always tell our guys, no matter what position they play, our whole team, our whole locker room, all eyes are going to be on you if you're a football player, both on and off the field. Be ready to live your life under a microscope because people want to see what's happening, see if you're going to, do right, see if you're going to fail. So, there's a lot of opposition towards football right now, as we know, and obviously other things that are happening in the world that we're trying to overcome. But those are two things I like to share with our football team and our quarterbacks. Leadership's a big topic right now for us, and just watching our football team grow in January and February, and then obviously we got shut down in right around March 10th, I think is when we really got shut down from our team. And we had such momentum going in every phase, from academics to obviously development, physical development, but the leadership and the player-driven leadership was huge for us, and it was going. And I told our team a few weeks ago when we met on a Zoom meeting, I said, hey, physically we're going to figure out where you're at, but when we get back, where we stopped with our culture is where we start. And it was on the rise, our culture of accountability and leadership and player-driven leadership. And we've had this program down here in South Florida for about 3 years now. We started in 2017, didn't play until 18 and 19, had a really good football team last year that went 9-1, went to the playoffs. A little bit disappointed in how that thing ended, but hungry for this season. But really our leadership's been huge. And really the way we look at it, leadership's influence. If you can influence the locker room, and obviously get guys to follow you and get people to react and respond to what you're trying to do. That's within our culture, and obviously we set that culture as coaches. But basically, leadership is influence. So as a coach, if you're a coach on here, you want to know who your influencers are on your team, the good ones and the bad ones, because there's guys in the locker room that can influence your team to do some bad things as well. So you want to know who all your influencers are. But and what we're talking about here is leadership, positive influence, and guys that are going to push guys. But obviously if you're the quarterback, you've got to walk a certain step, and you've got to definitely be above the standard. We're going to talk about standard here in a minute, but certainly what we really believe is leadership is influence, and if you can influence people, certainly that's leadership. And the standard, we talk about the standard of how we operate, and we've had a chance. We had a unique opportunity to start this program here, and I've had an opportunity to take over some programs and start some programs, but really creating the standard within the coaching staff on down to the players and the roster, and really what we want to get with that. And, so when we talk about lead by example, I think this is a big thing. If you're a coach on here, or if you're a quarterback, oh, that guy's a great leader by example. This guy does a great job of just, doesn't say much, but watch the way he works. So, when it comes to that, we really have gotten away from that. Obviously, if you lead by example, that's really the standard. So we don't really want that anymore. So, I hear coaches say, well, he's a great leader by example. So I've really had to cut that out of our coaches' vocabulary and really what we expect. And we've created a standard here of how hard our guys are going to work, how they're going to act, what they're going to do academically, and all these different phases. But really the standard in your program is really the minimum of what your culture will accept. And I think that's important to really understand in terms of how you've set these expectations as a coaching staff, as the head coach or with your coaches and your administration, your leadership, the standards of how your team's going to operate. Really, your culture is only going to accept the minimum. And once you get everybody on that same page, it's really the top 10% trying to pull up that middle 80, and then there's that bottom 10%. I talk to our team all the time about that bottom 10. Two things are going to happen. You're either going to be gone or you're going to find a way to figure it out to get in that 80%. And, obviously our elite 10% is just trying to pull guys up. But that lead by example no longer exists in our program. Really want guys that are going to be vocal, especially at quarterback. And this is the most demanding position in all sports. We want guys that are going to be vocal and guys that are going to, speak up, but they got to walk in the steps that, we talk about. So there it is right there. Being vocal is a huge piece of playing quarterback. The challenge here at our place, even with our quarterback, he's a really good worker. But now he's figuring it out what we expect. And really we saw it last year. His growth from year 1 to year 2 was really good in all phases, in playing in the games and physically, and then his leadership. Guys will listen to him because he is a hard worker. He does lead by example per se, but now guys are going to listen to him because they watch him, and he's made plays, and he was undefeated in the regular season last year, and he's been a winner for us. But he needs to be vocal, and he's continuing to work on that, and has certainly improved. But I think if you're going to be a quarterback at a high level and in an elite team, you got to be vocal. Always want to stay positive. It's always, we talk to our guys about staying positive. Big piece of it. There's so many negative things going on. We want to stay positive as much as we can. And then poise. I think poise is a big piece of being a great quarterback and an elite quarterback, and being poised. And there's a lot of components that lead to the ability to be poised. And obviously it's being prepared and putting these guys in a lot of different situations, but being able to have enough intensity, but have enough poise so you can manage through some of those tough times. So I think those are some things that we like to talk about with our guys, and really important that we focus on. Coachability, that goes without saying. Guys are going to do everything, that we've created on how we're going to coach the quarterbacks, and, a yes, sir mentality, and they're going to work and be the most committed guy and the hardest working guy on the team. Accountability is a big part of our culture in terms of you're going to be held accountable for everything you do. And there's consequences, and quarterbacks and coaches on here, some of us are probably parents on here. I talked to my son today, my little guy, and he made some poor decisions. He's 6 years old. Those guys make poor decisions. But I said, listen, man, you're going to have consequences. And I had to explain what a consequence was and the punishment. But you're going to be held accountable. So accountability is a big piece of that thing, and accountable to the playbook, accountable to the program, accountable to your teammates and your coaching staff as well. Commitment, obviously, that goes without saying. Got to be a committed guy. Got to work hard. Got to work harder than anyone else on the football team. And really, I've trained some young quarterbacks around here and down in Florida, and I like training young kids. I like training the middle school kids, and obviously there's a hunger from the parents and there's a hunger from the kid. And then when they go to like some big quarterback event in Atlanta or Orlando, and there's 50 kids that are 12 years old, or there's 80 kids that are 12 years old, and they come back and they say, wow, it is very competitive. And I said, that's one city that you went to. So it is a competitive position. And if you want to be good, you got to do different things. You got to come to quarterback school. You got to get in the playbook. You got to get with your coaches. I know a lot of guys have private coaches, which do not replace the quarterback coach or the offensive coordinator for your team. But commitment's obviously a big one. Work ethic, you got to be the hardest working guy in the team, in the building, is how we feel with our quarterbacks. Practice quality is huge. It's something I really learned a lot when I was with the Buffalo Bills, and watching and listening to, David Lee talk about practice quality of the quarterbacks, and Greg Roman, who's with the Baltimore Ravens, talk about, the practice quality. And we'll talk about practice a little bit later. I think it's tomorrow. We'll get to that. But, just the quality of practice is big, and obviously you're playing this position. It's huge with that. So keep on moving here. Mental preparation. Here we are at quarterback school, mini camp. It's huge. I think it's I think it's I don't think there's enough quarterbacks doing it. I really was impressed with our first group of guys that came through this. I'm looking forward to meeting you guys that are here tonight. But, guys just want to get out and go throw routes on air or play 7-on-7. It's way bigger than that. You got to get in and watch film. You got to get in and study the playbook. You got to get in and draw the playbook. You got to get in and say, hey, we're going to run Y stick, and I'm going to see cover 3, cover 2, cover 4, man free, pressure 0, all those different things for one play. And just the mental preparation and the visualization is so big with this position. There's no doubt about it. And obviously, mental and physical toughness, trying to develop that in our program through our off season. And try to make you uncomfortable, and whether it's in our strength and conditioning program or putting them on the spot in a meeting. But we want our guys to be mental and physically tough players for us in our program. And obviously at the quarterback position. And the one thing I would say about this, you guys as coaches and the quarterbacks that are on here, you're in control of this in terms of we can control this as a player. You can control how coachable you are. You can control how committed you are, your work ethic, all these things. You can control all these things. Obviously, you can't control if you're 6'4", or if you're going to be 6'4", or if you have a strong arm or not. But these things right here, these characteristics, you can certainly control. So hopefully that's something there for you guys. I'd like to talk about preparation. This is a big thing in our program. It's a big thing at the quarterback position in terms of, just what it's going to lead to, and I think if you're prepared and you're watching film and you're really studying the film and you're really working with your coaches and you're trying to understand the game plan. And then same thing as coaches and the coaches on here, you got to understand what your quarterbacks understand and what they can handle and what they like. I always give the example of, our current quarterback does an excellent job. I make him watch a ton of film. I make him bring ideas to me, and I know what he likes and I know what he doesn't like. And he may just say, hey, I'm not comfortable with this certain drop back pass, but I may think that this drop back pass is going to be the best thing for this opponent. But if our quarterback is not comfortable, it doesn't matter what I think. So I think that's something that I've learned over the years is just terms of you getting our quarterbacks ready, but understanding what they know, what they like, what they're comfortable with. Because I know as a play caller, there's certain concepts. If he doesn't, I'm not even going to practice them. We're not even going to put them on our game plan. If he doesn't like it, he's not comfortable with it, or just doesn't have great understanding, we're not even going to waste our time with it. Where 10, 12 years ago, I would have said, hey, this is what we're doing. But so quarterbacks, you've got to dive into this playbook, get with your coaches, study film. Something's got to sacrifice. Something in your life's got to sacrifice so you can be able to do all this. Obviously, if you're a high school guy, you got tons of homework, tons of academic responsibilities, tons of different responsibilities maybe with your family, and then you've got your football team. So something's got to give, and obviously that's got to be your social life or any extracurricular things outside of football. It's got to give, but your preparation, what that's going to lead to, it's going to lead to confidence. And that's the way you're going to play confident is if you're prepared. And I tell our team all the time, we're never going to be nervous for games. We're going to be anxious because we are so ready to play. But I want our football team to be so prepared. And obviously, I think a prepared football team is really good, but a confident football team that's prepared, I think, is going to respond to things that maybe they're not prepared for better. And obviously we talk about that poise and weathering the storm of bad situations. But, it goes back to purpose and practicing with purpose, and everything you do has intent and purpose with that. Your work ethic, we've talked about that a couple times here. I think that's a big thing to hammer home to quarterbacks and your team. Grit and the grittiness and the toughness. Get through those tough times when things don't seem like there's light at the end of the tunnel, or things are just so bad. Seems like it's just never going to end. You got to grind through it, and you got the grittiness of you as a quarterback is huge. And then obviously toughness, mental and physical toughness is a big part of that. So preparation leads to confidence. And then obviously I think you have a confident quarterback that's prepared, you're going to win more football games. And quarterbacks, take all this to heart with what we're talking about here tonight. So we'll keep moving here. Just some evaluations. I know some quarterbacks have asked to be evaluated by us or by our college football program. These are some of the things we talk about here. I can send you guys this evaluation, and obviously we would just make little notes on all these things, but there are critical things that we talk about. And then there's the specific skill sets that quarterbacks have to have. And then obviously there's other factors. That list could be bigger than that as well. But, just a little bit of a quarterback evaluation form there that you can take a look at, quarterbacks and coaches. I can send you that as well if you'd like that. So moving forward here and keeping us moving here, with our terms and our glossary, we're going to talk about down linemen and fronts. We're going to talk about base defense, sub defense, gaps, over, under, fronts, 1 high, middle of the field, close, 2 high, middle of the field, open, flat defender, and some of those things. So just as we continue, we're going to start looking at cover 3 here. So those terms in glossary, obviously, coaches, we all know that stuff, but I'm going to fly through some of that stuff as we get to it. So if there's questions, and obviously this is a recorded session here, quarterbacks can watch that as well. But, when we talk about, 1 high, or we talk about cover 3, it's really the ability to look at this field and say, all right, there's 1 high safety in the middle of the field, and we're going to break this field down into 3 different deep areas. And then obviously you got the seam area. And I really want to talk about the seam area, which starts at 12 yards, right at the hash mark, plus 2 outside the hash mark. And really, in my mind, it extends to 22 yards. But you got those deep third areas. You got that seam area. Those are really some of that's really the sweet spot in cover 3 when it's 1 high, middle of the field, close there with that. And then you've got your flat area is out there that really starts at around 5 yards, just inside the numbers, and extends, 12, 15. I guess that would depend on your opponent on how well they drop. But those are your 2 matching flat areas. And then you've got your 2 curl areas that are going to extend from your hash mark to just inside of those numbers where the flat area begins. And then you've got your middle hook area, which is really between the hashes. And, there's different things as quarterbacks that you've got to understand here. In terms of, who's going to drop to the middle hook and how's he going to get there? What's he relating to? What formation are we in? Are we going to, if they're in 2x2, he's going to relate to 3. Those are some big things in terms of how guys are going to drop. And obviously cover 3 and 1 high coverages, there's a ton of different variations. We could spend a lot of time on some different cover 3 variations, but in the end of the day, it's all about, there's going to be 3 deep defenders, and there's usually 4 underneath defenders for 5 areas with that. So continue to move here. We talk about the shade. It's that defensive tackle, that nose guard that is shaded on the center. He's not playing head up. That'll be a 0 technique, but he's just shaded on that center. And then you've got your 3 technique, which is just outside of that guard, playing outside shoulder of that guard in that B gap. And then you've got your 2-5 techniques there. And then as we continue to move, there's our odd front right there. It's a 3-3 stack. You got your 0 technique nose. You've got a 4 technique playing head up on the offensive tackle right there. And if he were inside, he would be called a 4-eye. We're seeing a lot of those 4-eye teams, these tight front teams, more and more. And then just talking about gaps here, I think it's obviously it's elementary. It's football 101. But just understanding you got those A gaps between the center and the guard. You got your B gaps, your C gaps, and your D gaps. And then even you have an E gap with this illustration here with this offensive formation. But, I think quarterbacks understanding what defenses are trying to do and trying to be gap sound and understanding where they're going to put guys is a big part of playing the position, and just some basic information, just like understanding what the gaps are called, are important. So when we talk about defense, so you take a look at that structure right there, and guys have got to train their eyes when they're watching film in terms of where it all starts. And, really it should start on the line of scrimmage, with how many are down. And, when we talk about base defense, we talk about it's 4 defensive backs. So it's going to be 3 linebackers and 4 defensive linemen, or 3 defensive linemen, 4 linebackers. But base defense is 4 DBs. And why this is important is so many teams are trying to match personnel. We're seeing so many nickel defenses and dime defenses. Guys are just trying to match personnel. So if it's a base defense, it's 4 DBs. Nickel defense is 5 DBs. Dime is 6. And then even in the NFL, you will see 7 DBs on certain downs, and that's all DBs and defensive linemen trying to rush the passer. And certainly we probably see that at least at the high school level in 7-on-7 and during the summer. But I've never seen 7 DBs on the field in the fall, but you see it in the summer when you're playing 7-on-7. Obviously when I was a high school coach, I always wanted to play with as much speed on the field as we could when we were on defense. And we would get to nickel, and sometimes we would get to dime, but we never got to quarter. But just some information there for you guys. So looking at the field there's our Sam linebacker. If you're in a nickel, that would be your nickel, or called your nickel Sam. There's your Mike. There's your Will. There's your field safety. There's your boundary safety. There's your boundary corner, and up top will be your field corner. So that's really how we identify the defensive players on the field. For me, typically it had been a strong safety where the free safety is, and it'd be a free safety where the boundary safety is. But now teams are such field and boundary oriented, so we have kind of changed our thought process on that. So moving forward here, talking over front equals line slid strong, and it's pretty elementary. If the line is slid to the strong side of your formation, you've got the over to the, with the 3 technique to the strength of your formation, we'll call 36 the strength, and that's the over. And the line is slid strong. It's that simple. And then you've got an under front right here. So this is really a true under front against a 2-back, fullback team there. So now the line is slid to the weak side. So you've got a shade over the nose, a shade over the center on the strong side, a 5 technique, and a stand-up outside linebacker over the tight end just outside over here. And then you've got a 2-line. You got the Sam, the Mike, and the Will right there. And that would be an under front. 1 high is a huge piece of the puzzle. Just understanding what 1 high or middle of the field closed. And one thing I learned and working in the NFL and breaking down film and talking to these guys and, really what's between the hashes. If there's someone between the hashes, it's a 1 high coverage. If there's no one between the hashes, it's middle of the field open. It's some sort of split coverage or cover 2. But I just think quarterbacks understanding, 1 high and what are those 1 high coverage possibilities. 2 high, middle of the field open. Obviously you see the 2 safeties up high. And now in college football, we're seeing so many different variations, these 3-over-2 tools or these 4-over-3 tools with the variation between the nickel Sam and the field safety. So we're seeing some different coverages with that. But in the end of the day, is it 1 high? Is it 2 high with that? So we're going to keep moving here. Let me see here what happened. Okay, so we're just breaking down cover 3, and we're going to get to so I just got a text message from one of the coaches. Breaking down cover 3, and obviously, time-tested, long-time coverage. When we talk about cover 3, obviously it's 3 deep, 4 underneath. What are the strengths? It can be good on run support. You get the 8-man box. It's secure in the deep thirds. When I played high school football, it was all about playing cover 3, and no one was going to get behind us, and it was the safest coverage, that there was. And now I love to see cover 3 as an offensive coach. And, you think about the weaknesses of it. Think about the flat coverage and the 2-on-1 that you can put on the flat coverage and the 4 verticals and attacking that seam area. And it's very easily identified. So just looking at that and breaking down cover 3 right there. So with that, just again, visually looking at that, there's 1 guy in the middle of the field. What I ask our quarterbacks all the time and even our wideouts, if there's 1 guy in the middle of the field, what do those corners have to do? And this is as basic as it gets, but they're pretty much going to have to backpedal, whether it's zone or man. And they're not playing cloud unless it's a mistake by the corner, but they're going to have to backpedal. So it's that simple. And then you've got 1 underneath, 2 underneath, 3 underneath, 4 underneath. because you got the 4 defensive linemen right there. So it's just a 3 deep, 4 underneath coverage right there with that. So those are some illustrations of where you want to attack. If I'm a coach and we're seeing a cover 3 team or a 1 high team, we want to attack the flats. That's really the first way, because of our RPOs or because of our basic quick game concepts. But then we've got our 4 verticals, which attacks the seam area, which will also be a high volume play call for us. So against these 1 high teams, attack the flats, attack the seam area. Obviously you're going to horizontally stretch the field, but you're going to put a 2-on-1 conflict on that flat defender. So attacking cover 3, there's just some thoughts there. Quick game, combo read, all hitch, slant arrow, double out, stick concept, curl flat. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Seam area, obviously a horizontal stretch on the free safety or the seam. All go X shallow, and then obviously there's some ways to attack it. So just going to take a look at an illustration here. Obviously we want to attack the seam areas when we're attacking cover 3. We want to attack the seam areas. So the first way we're going to do it is we're going to get 4 guys vertically down the field, and we're going to put pressure on the underneath coverage. We know that those corners are going to drop. We know that safety is going to be in the middle of the field, and we're going to put a horizontal stretch on that 1 high safety right there. And we're going to put pressure on the underneath coverage with that right there with 4 verts. And now another way, just looking at cover 3 and understanding cover 3, is we're going to put a 2-on-1 conflict on the flat defender. And there's a time-tested hook flat route. So if the free safety, the field safety were to drop and get depth, we're going to throw it to the flat route. If he were to run wide, we're going to throw it to the hook route. Another way, very simple, 2-on-1 versus the flat defender right there is a slant arrow. So as basic as it gets, but that's really what I want to be able to break this down for quarterbacks and for coaches in terms of how we want to attack it and how you need to look at it with that. So now we're going to get to some film here in a second, but just for tonight, because I want to keep moving, I'm going to go through an install, right here, the passing game install. And then I think we're going to get to another flat defender read. And then we're going to watch 3 segments of film. And then we're going to get to day 2. So just, are there any questions that I can answer before we continue to move on? Looks like we're making pretty decent time here. So, Hank install. So a basic curl flat concept. You can run this multiple formations. It's drop back pass. Obviously see the bullet points there. Free access to the read route over the ball. We're running an OTB at 6 yards over the ball. It doesn't have to be your tight end. It can be your slot. It can be anyone in your offense. We try to run this and game plan our Hank concept multiple different ways, and everyone's got to understand this concept. But at the end of the day, it's drop back pass. We've got a free access over the read route. And then the key thing right there is work the squeeze side. So what does that mean? If I don't take the free access over the ball, if I'm the quarterback, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, plant and throw to the Y in this illustration. If he's being squeezed from the right, I'm going to get my eyes to the right, to the flat defender. If he goes wide, I'm throwing it to the hook. If he gets depth, I'm throwing it to the back. If I'm squeezed from the left, I'm doing the same thing on the left right there. So we've got tags for cover 2 and other variations. We absolutely love this install. We love this concept versus cover 3 and man coverage. So we're going to move on to a flat defender read. We're going to get to some film here in a minute, but just talking about a basic flat defender read, we're going to use the same concept. So this is a big thing when you're teaching your quarterbacks, and I tell quarterbacks all the time that I train, ask your coaches, what's the read? What's the foundation? What's the why of this concept? What are we trying to accomplish with this concept? And how can I understand it better? So just talking about a flat defender read, I think it's really one of the easiest things that there is. I think pure progression is as easy as it gets. We'll talk about that, I think, tomorrow. But the flat defender read, where it's really a 2-on-1 conflict. So looking at this little concept right here, we talked about Hank. if I'm going to throw the ball there, I'm going to go 3 and plant as the quarterback. So as I watch this illustration go, now, if I don't throw it to the guy over the ball, if I don't throw it to this guy over the ball, my eyes are going to go to that strong safety, that flat defender. And I'm going to be able to work my footwork with this concept and my eyes. I'm processing, and I can go make a great decision. So as we run through this, we can see the linebacker has mugged up the Y. We're not taking it. So now I'm in my drop. Now my eyes go to the strong safety. So now the strong safety's gone wide. The ball goes to the Z. So now we look at it again. Okay, so I'm not taking the Y. He's mugged up. Strong safety gets depth. Ball goes to the T. It's that simple. So just with this little install of Hank and just talking about the flat defender read, I really like to categorize our reads for our passing game. You know, like when we run 4 verts, that's really a full field coverage read. When we run Hank, that is a flat defender read. I can also make that a coverage read based on tagging it with a cover 2 beater. So there's my cover 3 side. There's my cover 2 side. So that's just a basic flat defender read. Here's another one right now. So we saw it was a 1 high coverage. Now it's a 2 high coverage. So we studied film. We know that the corner, they're a cover 2 team. So that's the flat defender. So we're going to create concepts to attack that flat defender. You know, if it's a corner, he's typically outside wide in that flat area. We are going to really high-low him. And some coaches will refer to that as a high-low read. We're still referring that as a flat defender read where we're high-lowing the cornerback there. So just taking a look at this, if the flat defender drops, we're going to throw it short in the flat area. If this flat defender now is going to play a little bit snug up in his flat, we're going to throw it deep. So, again, it's a flat defender read. We're just high-lowing that flat defender. So now I think we're going to get to some film here. We'll talk about quarterback reads, and then we're going to get to film, and then we're going to go to day 2, and we're going to keep this thing moving. So got the flat defender read, which we've talked about. Got a coverage read, which is, you know, you've got these concepts like Hank, and you tag it with a backside smash. So you've got, all right, quarterbacks. We've got our free access in the middle of the field. If it's cover 3, work the Hank side. If it's cover 2, work the smash side. You'd read the corner. And that would be a coverage read. Then you got a pure progression. And I really like pure progression reads because it never changes no matter what the coverage. With our concept, whatever formation we're running in, I'm going to throw it to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It never changes. Ram is a read away from the mic read. We talk about that tomorrow night, you know, which there's some concepts where you can build it where I'm going to read the mic. If he goes left, I'm throwing it to the right side. If he goes right, I'm going to throw it to the left side. So it's a read away from the mic. Then obviously you got a high-low or vertical stretch on the corner, which we talked about, inside out, horizontal stretch on a flat defender. Those are other terms that can be utilized for reads. And obviously those are the days that we're going to talk about. And obviously there's not a day 3. So we're going to get those on day 2. And then we're going to talk about RPOs tomorrow, which will be a big part of tomorrow night's discussion with RPOs, which is such a big topic. So, again, now we're getting close to the end of day 1. So now we're going to go to film here. So what I've got to do now is I've got to stop this share here. And then I've got to go to this right here. So we're going to take a look at some cover 3 film here, and then we're going to take a look at flat defender reads. And then I think there's one more bit of film here. So as we're taking a look at this film, you know, clearly quarterbacks and coaches, you know, you've got your concepts built. It's 1 high safety. So, you know, we talk about this being cover 3. There's going to be 4 underneath defenders, we know those corners are going to drop. Some sort of backpedal. Maybe they're going to play man technique. Maybe they're playing a cover 3 match. But really, those guys are going to backpedal out of there. Obviously, you can see these guys right here are bailing out of there. It's cover 3. So what I want you to look at there, and obviously it brightens up a little bit, but right now this is just going to be a horizontal stretch underneath here. It's just a horizontal stretch underneath here. And really, again, and I didn't say it earlier, when it comes to the passing game, obviously you've got zone coverage, you've got man coverage, you've got different philosophies. But I don't care, and I've learned this probably from the guys in the NFL and then just trying to just continue to learn as a coach. Find the one-on-one matchups in the passing game. And I don't care if it's zone coverage or man coverage, because there's going to be some one-on-one matchups in the passing game in the underneath. And that's clearly right there. This tight end is matched up man-to-man on that tight end on that little stick concept. So now we're going to take a look over here to the bottom. Obviously, this quarterback did not throw to the bottom. But now what you've got here is you've got a running back coming to the flat. You've got this guy running a slant. You've got one high safety right there. So this guy's dropping. We're going to read this defender. If he gets depth, get the ball here. If he would have gotten width, get the ball here. It's that simple. And just obviously it's that simple to talk about it when we're watching film, but quarterbacks watch film, work through your footwork. Coaches take these guys through footwork and nonstop work during practice and teach them your offense, and you're going to have a lot better time here coaching. Obviously, he didn't throw it down there, but if he did, with that flat defender dropping like that, the ball would have gone to the running back, and he would have had a chance with a lot of space right there. But you can clearly see this is just a one-on-one matchup in the underneath zone. This is really, because this guy's dropping, this is 2-on-1. This is 2-on-1. So, just when I started learning more about the passing game and when I first talked to whoever it was that told me, find the one-on-one matchups in the passing game, no matter if it's zone or man coverage, that really changed the way we thought about throwing the football. All right, so we'll keep moving here. There it was again, fast. So now we've got a condensed set. So again, this is a little Hank concept up top, and it's really just going to be a 2-on-1. It's pretty simple. It was one high safety, right? It was one high clearly in the middle of the field. One high safety. We know this guy's going to pedal. We know this is the flat defender. That's your read. Obviously, they're running some sort of different sort of pivot route there. It was going to be some sort of smash versus cover 2, and it was so soft he just set it up in the zone. But you're going to read that flat defender. Obviously, the guy's got to make the play. Great player. Now let's take a look at this. Clearly one high safety. There's your 4 underneath defenders. They're just horizontally stretching the field, winning the one-on-one. Look at the hitch route down here. When you talk about, when you go back and you're watching film and you think about, all right, coach said the flat routes, the flat areas are vulnerable in cover 3. So look at the hitch route down here. Look at the hitch route down to the bottom here. That's the flat area. This guy's a deep third defender. This guy has got his back to this flat area, that's wide open. So, when you watch film, quarterbacks or coaches, think about how you want to attack these teams and look at where the vulnerabilities are. Okay, so now what you've got here is you've got it's a 3-by-1, but it's really a 4-by-1. So now they're going to run, it's one high coverage. These guys are going to pedal. There's your 4 underneath defenders right there, but they're going to push to this 4-by-1. They're going to push this 4-by-1. So watch the one-on-one matchup with the tight end or number 3 and the linebacker. Obviously, I don't know why it shines up like that, but again, it goes back to finding the one-on-one matchups in the passing game. Here's a safety rotation. He's obviously going to fit inside where this inside linebacker is going to run to the flat. So this would be like a 3-strong rotation. We'd probably call this 3-Sam, where he's going to fit inside of the strong side linebacker. And again, it's just finding holes in the zones and you're horizontally stretching an area. But look at the flat defender area up top as well. Okay, so that was our cover 3 film that we're going to watch. Let me see. Okay, so now we're just going to get to some flat defender read film here. I think it's a bunch of examples of Hank. It's the concept we talked about earlier. So, we talked about that free access. If you can get the football point A to point B right in front of the quarterback, it's a really easy completion. So now what you've got here is you've got one high safety. These guys are going to bail. Watch the 2-on-1 conflict that we put on this guy right here too. You've got a nice 2-on-1 conflict there. But again, if you can get the ball of the free access, get the ball of the free access and just understanding coverage. So again, there's some drawing there. We're going to have a hook route. This guy's going to bail. Here's a hook route. Here's a 2-on-1. 2-on-1 on this guy right here. Obviously, I think they throw it to the free access here. But if he didn't, look at how this concept beats the coverage. And a lot of times with this, and a lot of times we talk about with quarterbacks and, where we want to put the ball. And we talk about arm strength. We talk about accuracy. We talk about decision-making. Obviously decision-making would be number 1. Accuracy is number 2. And arm strength's a distant number 3. But we often talk about the soft shoulder, whether we're talking about Hank or whatever concept we're talking about. We often talk about that soft shoulder away from the defenders, just the ball placement away from the defenders. And here's a nice little soft shoulder throw to that tight end right there. There's your flat defenders. Now, for some reason, he didn't take free access, even though it's open here. But you can watch how this works here. The flat defender went wide, and they throw it right in that hole right there. There's your flat defenders. He goes wide. Here it is out of a bunch set. Didn't take free access, even though it's wide open. Flat defender goes wide. There's the hole right there. It's one high safety. Someone's in between the hashes, so it's cover 3. It's just working a flat defender read. Okay, let me see here. All right, so now I think what we're going to do here now. So we're going to come back over here. Hopefully everybody's still with us. You guys have any questions, please feel free. Also, this is going to be recorded. It'll take a little bit of time. I think Exo Clinics is going to be in charge of getting it all downloaded, and then they'll get it to me, and then we'll get it up on the site for you guys for a replay, hopefully sometime early tomorrow. But let's move on here. So again, obviously we're at the end of day one. Now we're going to get to day two. You know, we talked about this. We talked about leadership, influence, standard, no more lead by example. I kind of wanted to hammer that home. You know, always in day two, I hammer that home. You know, got to be vocal as a quarterback, got to stay positive. And then we're trying to always develop that skill set of poise and being poised, and comes through preparation. You know, so now let's talk about work ethic is going to lead to excellence. You know, and we're in control of that. You know, you're in control of how hard you work. And I think that, you know, I talk to our team all the time about, you know, you think you're working hard, but are you really working hard? And it's something that they really control, and we really try to have a high standard with that. You know, I know that we've had some guys that have just recently joined us because of maybe they just got back from being home from the quarantine, and, you know, it's 98 degrees out in the morning and we're running, and their butts are gassed, and just, you know, I've been running. But no, clearly you haven't been running, you know, to the volume and to the intensity level that you've needed to. So got to just push on these guys to be really hard workers, because they're in control of that, and they're going to thank you for that someday. You know, when obviously they're in the real world like we are. But, you know, work ethic leads to excellence, and it's going to lead to opportunities. And obviously, you know, your work ethic is also, you know, it goes back to your craft development too. So if you're a wide out, if you're a quarterback or whatever, but obviously we're talking quarterbacks here, but, you know, your 3-step drop, your rocker step, you know, you're throwing on the run, you're naked, your mental development, your craft development, you know, your work ethic is part of that. You know, you talk about these guys that go out and do these things for 10,000 hours, and then all of a sudden they're an expert at it. And, you know, we talk about thousands of reps of quarterback drops and footwork, and, you know, it's like a little kid learned how to walk. So at some point you don't even think about it. You know, your work ethic is going to lead to awesome craft development, and it's going to show up on the film. So when it comes to quarterback training, you know, I do have this slide in here, and I know that some of you guys are quarterback coaches. Some of you guys are quarterbacks. But, you know, one thing that I always talk about as a coach is, you know, looking at this guy's base. You know, I always look at their base. You look at their A-frame up top. But talking about the base, I always talk about armpits, because I think you start talking about shoulders, I think guys get a little bit too wide. I always want to talk about balance point and your base and your platform down below, underneath your armpits. They're going to end up being wider than their armpits, but that's where I want them. And I think that's what I found over time, and just talking to guys and watching and training guys. You know, I think, you know, if they can understand that underneath center, their feet are underneath their armpits. In the shotgun, my feet are underneath my armpits. At the end of my drop, my feet are underneath my armpits. That's a big key to it. So that's what we talk about, our base with that. You know, and we talk about our platform. The one thing I would show you about our platform right there, I want you to look at his back knee. His back knee is inside of his foot. So that to me is, he's under great control. He's got good bend in his ankle, knees, and hips. But at the end of your drop, because you've had good control, you want that back knee underneath, loaded, but inside of your foot. And you could draw a line from his kneecap down to the ground, and it's inside of his foot. And I think that's a good platform to work off of. Going back to his base, if you look at his upper body, you know, you've got an extended, vertically extended bicep and tricep on both sides. I call this like the A-frame. You know, the ball is not pointed directly down. It's not pointed directly out. it's somewhere in between. So there's that line right there with the knee inside first platform. But now we're looking at his carriage. The ball's not down. The ball's not completely out. But he's got good control. It's on the back side of his sternum, on his back pec. And then when we're in our carriage down the line position, it is from pec to pec position. And these are all basics for quarterback play. And then when we talk about the finish, this is a big thing. And it all goes back to the base. It goes back to your platform. Your carriage is part of it. So as we talk about the finish, we'll take a look at his upper body first. Now, one thing I would tell you, and one thing I've talked about with these guys, is get to the top of the circle. So as you can draw a circle, extend and draw. You're trying to get to the top of that circle, so you're releasing it high. So you want to be in this L position, 90-degree position, or just a little bit higher. I think when your elbow is below your shoulder, there's going to be some problems caused biomechanically and physically with your rotator cuff. So I think from a health standpoint, you want to keep that thing parallel at 90 degrees or above, and you're trying to reach the top of your circle. And then the one thing I would talk about, it all goes back to your base. If your base is too wide and you step, you are not going to finish correctly. You're not going to bring that back foot to the finish line. You're not going to bring that back foot to the finish there, and you want to finish parallel or beyond with that. Okay? So this was just, day 2 quarterback training, some thoughts there, just some basics, whether you're the coach or you're the quarterback, with base, platform, carriage, and finish. So now let's talk about QBI, quarterback intelligence, huge piece of the puzzle there. And because QBI is going to lead to great decision-making. The smarter you are as a quarterback, the better prepared you are. The better you see things and understand what the defense is going to do. That's going to lead to better decision-making. That's going to lead to more wins, completions, and all those things that you want to get. And I think it starts with understanding what the defense is trying to do. I think that's a big piece of it there. Get into the playbook and understanding the playbook, from front to back, but starting concept after concept and the why of the playbook, and ask your coach why. And coaches, give them the why. This is why we run Hank. This is why we run forward verts. This is why we run wide stick. And then the different variations of how you do it. And this is how we're going to read it. And we're going to see cover 3. We're going to see cover 4. We're going to see cover 2. We're going to see man. We're going to see zero. And this is what our answers are. But, quarterback intelligence leads to decision-making, which is going to lead to some really good things for your football team. But you got to understand the defense, got to understand the playbook, obviously the why of the playbook as well. So now, quality of practice. We talked about that earlier. And I've been coaching football a long time, and I've always put a lot of stock in practice, and I've talked to our teams about, it's got to be about practice. Football is different. We have 10 opportunities, but it's got to be about practice. And I felt like I've done a good job of emphasizing that, but just the quality of practice is huge, for our whole football team. But as a quarterback, your quality of practice is going to lead to excellence, and just taking the pride and where your focus needs to be during practice is such a big piece of it. And you got to practice like it's a game. And I say this all the time, and I'm sure this drives you nuts, and I see it even in sometimes my training sessions. These quarterbacks that drop so nonchalantly, like they're in a 7-on-7 tournament, and they're barely even dropping. It's slow motion. It looks nothing like it will on Friday night when the bullets are flying. But you need to practice like it's a game. And coaches, we need to force them and demand them to practice like it's a game with game-like intensity in that. Compete to win every rep. You got to compete to win every rep, and you're competing with yourself to be the best you can be on that rep. I think that's a big piece of it. Constant work. This is one thing that I've, really looked at. Obviously we know constant work, and there's time in between special teams, and there's time in pre-practice, and there's, whenever there's time to get work, but constant work. And it doesn't have to just be throwing. It can be footwork. It can be handoffs. It can be, defensive identification. It can be chalk talk. You can have the whiteboard out on the field, but constant work. And I learned this from David Lee with the Buffalo Bills, and he's coached a lot of different teams in the NFL, and just those quarterbacks were amazing. Just watching those guys, the constant work at practice, whether they were working a 3-step drop, fade fade throws, pocket movement drills, escape drills. They were chalk talking things up. They were never doing nothing. They were always working. So constant work at practice is something that we're a big believer in. I'm excited here at the place where I coach. I was able to have an assistant quarterbacks coach last year. Now I've got 2 guys. We're going to have 6 quarterbacks in our program. So we're going to have 3 guys that are constantly coaching our quarterbacks, myself and 2 assistants. And our guys are going to be constantly put through drills, and it's only going to get them better and more prepared. There's just too many things to get worked on, obviously, than to just stand around. Constant drill work, we talked about that. So now moving on here, we're going to get to cover 2, and then we're going to shut it down. And then we're going to be back tomorrow night. But hopefully you guys are enjoying this. I need feedback on how to make this thing better. So please do that as well. So now just, basic strong rotation. Obviously you see right there, it's 2 high safeties. You've got a trips formation up top. If you're going to get safety rotation down to the strong side, we just call that strong side rotation. And you've got to understand, I really like watching NFL film because you see a lot of movement, see a lot of pre-snap and then post-snap movement with that. So that would be called strong rotation. Obviously, if he was going to go down to the weak side, it's weak rotation. So now let's talk about 3 strong rotation, which is where you're going to get rotation over on top to the top third. And then this safety down below is going to go to the middle third. Then this corner down below is going to play in his third. And the corner up top is playing clouds. That's just a 3 strong rotation. 3 weak rotation right there, playing cloud, which is another one of our terms that we've got to understand. But just a 3 weak rotation, okay? So now I'm just going to go through some terms here and just some vocabulary for you guys to have, and obviously leverage and position where defender lines up and is protecting. You're either inside or outside, and you've got to understand if they're playing inside leverage, that's what they're protecting. If they're playing outside leverage, that's what they're protecting. Leverage is a big-time term in football. Cloud, technique played by a cornerback where he reroutes or disrupts the release of number 1. If you're playing cloud technique, you're a cloud technique corner, you do not have deep responsibility. So it's some sort of rotated cover or cover 2 or maybe a 3 cloud coverage, but a cloud technique is meant to disrupt and reroute the release of number 1. Dogs are pressures by linebackers. Blitzes are pressures by DBs. Fire zones, 5-man pressures with a dropper from the D-line. Free access is a term we often use. Pre-snap look that gives you the first look of a call. So it can be pre-snap where I can say I'm going to throw the hitch route into the boundary. I would call that free access or a gift. We talked about free access with our hang concept as well. So I think that's a big term. It's what gives you the opportunity first to get a completion. Pattern read, it's a defensive technique used that reads routes run by a defense, run by how the defense reacts. Quarters coverage. So if I'm a safety and I'm pattern reading, if I'm reading number 2 and he runs vertical, I'm going to play man-to-man. If he vacates out or crosses my face, now I'm going to bracket 1. So I'm pattern reading. Okay, we're going to read the routes that are run by the offense, and then we're going to react to that. Okay, so there it is right there. So I'm that safety. I'm reading number 2's release. If number 2 crosses or goes out, I'm going to bracket 1. So it's a bracket coverage or a quarters type coverage. You see it in the red zone. You see it in the open field. You can see it really anywhere with that. Now, this is a big thing. So now quarterbacks and coaches, we're getting into educating pre-snap looks and pre-snap thoughts. So you take a look at that angled contour up top. What we're talking about an angled contour is that corner's down low playing cloud and that safety's up high. He's going to play – they're on different levels. He's going to play a half. So we call that an angled contour. Now we're talking flat contour. They're on the same level. They're probably playing some kind of type of quarters or maybe palms or that pattern read we are talking about, that would be quarters coverage. So angled contour and flat contour visually is something our quarterbacks need to see on film and also need to be able to see from behind the center. So that's just identifying coverage. Now we're talking apex defender. The apex defender is the first defender outside of the box. The key is to identify his alignment, his stance, and his eyes. And that's going to tell you a story as well. So we got to find the safeties. What's the contour? What are the apex defenders? Where's their alignment? Are they truly apexed? Are they head up? What stance are they in? And where are their eyes? The eyes of defenders often tell a story, whether it's man or zone. But the apex defender is a big term we talk about. You know, right there, obviously he's in a man stance, aligned over the receiver. His eyes are on the receiver. It's man coverage. So, you know, you got to be able to identify that. You got to watch the film and see how these guys are doing it. So now this is a big piece of putting together some quarterback pre-snap keys and indicators here. So we got to train our eyes pre-snap. Just like we train our 3-step drop, just like we train our 5-step drop, just like we train our rocker step, just like we train our zone read footwork, you need to train your eyes pre-snap so it becomes routine and your memory and really a progression of how you're going to go through things here. And it's really your pre-snap reads and indicators with that. So one thing I've talked about with our quarterback, the harder you work pre-snap, and the harder you work in the beginning of the week, watching film, studying film, trying to get all the answers that you need, the easier it will be post-snap, okay? So now, keys pre-snap. Glance at the front, 3 technique, shade, 4 down, 3 down. You know, look at the fronts. What are they doing? A lot of that can be done, you know, understand, this is what they play on first down, this is what they play on second down. Now we're in third down. Maybe they're a 3-down team. But you see a lot of that in your film study. But you're going to want to glance at the front. Safeties. Where are the safeties located? Where are their jersey numbers? Who's the free? Who's the strong? Who's the field? Who's the boundary? You know, what's the contour? Are they flat? Are they a rotating team? So find the safeties. 1 high, 2 high, capping an apex. Capping an apex can tell me a lot about, you know, coverage and pressure. And, you know, we know what the apex defender is. Is he capped? Does he have someone that's playing on top of him at a distance between 5 to 7 yards? That's going to indicate pressure. Okay, contour, flat or angled. Okay, positioning of the corners. Are they off? Are they press? Are they cloud? Where are their eyes? Okay, and this is all milliseconds pre-snap as you're going through this routine. Okay. Read away from Mike. So we're going to get through this. So now we're into a quarterback read. Second one that we're talking about. Actually, I think it's the third one. So read away from the mic. So got a basic snag concept with a double slant concept. So the one thing about RAM reads and what I have found is that, you know, typically it's the 4-3 teams. It's the 4-3 2 high teams. You can easily identify where the mic is. And then you build these concepts where you read away from the mic. So we got a simple snag and a simple double slant. So it's 2 high. It's got that perfect scenario. So we would have a RAM read here. So basically, if the mic goes to the right, he's going to relate to 3. So that's a big term now, relating to 3. Z is 1, Y is 2, X is 1, H is 2. It's a balanced formation. The tailback would be 3. The mic in these 4-3 defenses is typically going to relate to 3. So if he relates to 3 and goes to the right, I'm going to throw it to the left. I'm going to read that Sam. He's inside. I'm going to throw it to the X. So now, for some reason, he's favoring the field. Now I'm just going to work the snag side right there. And I would go really snag the arrow with the situational throw to the Y. Okay? So now breaking down cover 2. Strengths, 2 high safeties, 5 underneath guys in those 5 underneath zones, those 2 outside flats, those curls, and a middle hook dropper. That's typically a guy relating to 3. I think cover 2, you draw it up on the board. You know, this is how I'm going to attack cover 2. Yeah, I like this concept. I like this concept. Good cover 2 teams are really hard to win against in terms of the passing game consistently with that. I think they can disrupt the timing of your routes. I think they've got a lot of underneath guys that can, get into some passing lanes, and obviously got the 2 deep safeties. That's why a lot of times you hear about running the football, but against cover two. But you got to be able to throw into cover two as well and understand how you're going to beat it and have answers for that. The weaknesses I would say would be run support. I'm always going to say that the deep middle and those outside windows are weaknesses because you can stretch them. And then the linebacker coverage, horizontally or high-lowing those guys, is a weakness. Okay? So now we talked about the 3 zones. Now we're going to talk about 2 zones. You still have a seam area, right? And then you still have those outside flat areas that are going to be covered by the corners. And then you've got the curl area that's going to be covered by the Sam and the Will. And then the Mike is going to relate in the middle hook to number 3 formationally with that. So as you can take a look at that, that would really what it would look like if they were to drop. You've got 5 underneath defenders. You've got the strong safety and the field safety, or the field safety and the boundary safety. Those are some sweet spots right there we talked about in that outside part of that half, the middle of the field, and obviously the mirrored side over there on the right. And then you can horizontally stretch underneath defenders with a stick concept, drive concept, levels, all types of different things. You can high-low the cornerback. The Mike's going to relate to 3. That's a big term to understand there. So here's a visual for you guys right here. You got 2 deep defenders, 5 underneath defenders. You got your 2 flat guys, your 2 curl guys, and your middle hook defender right there. Attacking cover 2. Quick game thoughts would be double slants, double outs, stick. Those would be horizontal stretches. Curl flat, obviously flat defender. You could work a complement to your hang concept, which would be in our offense swag. Seam area, 4 verts, vertically read on the Mike, high lows. You got the all go concept and a little shallow concept right there. So there's just some thoughts with attacking cover 2. Areas to attack is that little sweet spot. Now it's a visual with defense out there. Middle of the field, those 2 outside soft spots, and then horizontally stretch the underneath coverage. So this is where we'll start off tomorrow night, but we're going to take a look at some cover 2 film, and then we're going to shut it down, and then we'll be back tomorrow night. So I appreciate you guys being with us here tonight. And if there's any questions, send them our way. And again, make sure you guys are getting on the site. Hopefully you guys have access to QBD. I want to make sure if you don't have access, get a hold of me. I'll make sure that you get access. There's a bunch of drills. Also, the YouTube channel is something that we're trying to build as well. They've been putting some different drills on the YouTube channel as well with that. So, and then obviously looking forward to quarterback intelligence and QBI certification coming in 2021. And you'll definitely get an invite to that. And hopefully that's something that you guys want to take part of. But let's take a look at some film here, and then we will shut it down. And then we will be back tomorrow night. So let's just take a look at some cover 2 film. So just taking a look here, the first snap, this is our team here, clearly got 2 high safeties. One thing, obviously what you want to see here is you've got your 2 high safeties. This is one of those 4-3 teams. So here's a Sam, here's a Mike, here's a Will, here's a cloud corner, here's a cloud corner, probably reading the release here, so that's why you'll see him pedal out a little bit here. And then you clearly got the 2 high safeties, and that middle of the field is wide open. And we talk about all those sweet spots. Obviously, this team that we're playing, they were really good coming off the edge, and they were good in coverage. This is one of our completions, I think, that we had against these guys. But I think it's really just understanding coverage and understanding what the defense is doing. And we talked about, QBI leads to decision-making, which is going to lead to really good things for your football team. But what's QBI? It's really understanding what the defense is trying to do. And then you got to go attack it with your system there. So we've got the middle linebackers relating to 3, so you can see him driving on number 3. So basically we've got a 4 verts concept here, and we're just going to get someone to the middle of the field from the boundary, and ends up being a nice completion there for us. So take a look at it from behind here and just understanding cover 2. So obviously he's highlighted there because this guy's going to relate to 3. You got to understand that. Then you got these Tampa 2 teams that obviously it ends up really playing a lot like cover 3, but this is not a Tampa 2 team that we're playing here. But yeah, I just think with this concept, understanding that, look at the middle of the field from hash to hash is open. Obviously the safety is aggressive and, the route was a little bit bent off, but it ended up being a good completion for us. But it's just understanding how the defense is going to react to your routes and match it is important. So here's another one right here. We're in a 2x2. We just have like a wing right there. So this would be the Sam. This would be the Mike. This would be the Will. Pre-snap, not sure. Is it going to be weak side rotation? Is it going to be, looks like it's going to be middle of the field open, almost looking Tampa 2-ish. We see the Mike is opening really wide to the right because the back is showing to the right. So he's relating to 3, or maybe he's relating to the field. This quarterback does a good job here of throwing it in that window, in the cover 2 window right there to our bender. So just understanding coverage is really important. It's obviously cover 2. So we'll take a look at this. Love watching this film right here. Right now I'm thinking, all right, it's 1 high. But now post-snap, right when the ball snapped, it goes to 2 high. So now your corners are playing cloud, and that's how they're going to fit. This is against the run game. Right there. So just seeing that, coaches and quarterbacks, as you watch film, you have got to understand that pre-snap, and then what's going to happen post-snap. The more work you do pre-snap and the more work you do during the week, the better off you're going to be. So I think there's a really good coaching point here that we can make, and you'll see it illustrated here in a second. So these guys are in a 2x2 formation. There's 2. Here's 1. Here's 2. Here's the tailback and pistol. Here's the nickel Sam or dime Will, however you want to call it. Nickel Sam, Mike, and Will. This guy is going to relate to this guy. So if he releases this way, this guy is going to drop this way. If he releases this way, he is going to drop this way. But I just think you look at this play design here, and you see number 3 going to the right. The Mike is going to open to the right. It's middle of the field open, and the Mike is related to 3. Watch the bender coming across. Really good play design, similar to one we had, throwing the bender. But just understanding how these coverages work here. So, you've got these guys playing in the flat. This guy's going to drop in the hook. Here's your relating the 3 middle hook guy. There's your curl guy. There's a flat guy. There's a soft spot out here. There's a soft spot in the middle of the field. There's a soft spot out here. You just got to be able to conflict the guys playing in those areas. So it's really good play design right there. Here's another cover 2. So there's that contour. Now they're just going to basically high-low that corner to the field. He drops with the vertical release. Flat route gets out there. Now I'm just going to make him tackle you. But I think as you're studying film, you can see the Mike relating to 3. See the angled contour. See the different stretches that you can put on the defense. And again, look who really becomes the new number 3. It really, if you really look at this, this is just a one-on-one matchup because this guy's going to relate to 2 in the curl. There's your flat defender. And that's just a one-on-one matchup there. All right. Good deal. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for tonight. Again, if you have questions, please reach out to me. Send me an email, send me a text. Let's talk on the phone, whatever you need. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight. It'll be recorded. We'll get it up. At some point, you'll have access to it, but certainly have enjoyed tonight. Tomorrow night, we will start off with a pure progression read, and then we're going to keep moving through some terms and some different quarterback reads. And then tomorrow night is also an RPO night. So, be looking forward to tomorrow night. So if you guys have any questions, please reach out to me. If not, look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow, and appreciate you guys.